What's up, Sales RXers? Look, with outbound conversion rate benchmarks being as low as 3%, it's no secret that it's really tough right now for a lot of sellers. And if you're an individual contributor or a senior leader in marketing, RevOps, sales, any role that has a revenue related metric that you have to attain, it's time to find a better pipeline channel. So what's better than selling to someone who doesn't know you or your product? Selling to someone who does. This is where Champify comes in. Champify monitors key contacts at accounts like champions, post-sale sponsors, admins, heavy users, and they enrich that data to detect job changes, determine relevancy for outreach, and then assigns and alerts reps with those newly assigned leads. So if you haven't tried out Champify yet, you need to give it a shot. Stop spinning your wheels with outbound heavy sales motions and start selling to people you've already sold to. You can click the link below in the show description for an extended proof of concept and free data test from the team at Champify. What you'll do is click podcast in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Let them know that the Sales RX podcast sent you so they know who to give the VIP treatment to. Now let's jump into today's episode. So, Dan, this is really a treat to have you here because you're going to talk about something that I don't think we hear about enough in sales. Everybody will jump on the podcast and talk about cold calling, cold emailing, building an outbound sales motion. Video prospecting is getting pretty hot right now. Sales leadership metrics, yada, yada, yada. Bang my head against the desk. But you're talking about something that I think, at the end of the day, is why we're all in sales, which is our paychecks, our commission checks, the daunting task of having to look through it every month and make sure, or every quarter, and make sure that everything's correct, cross-referencing the newest commission plan that I was sent to sign after I hit 125% of quota and hit accelerators. Now my quota went up 25%, so I can hit 100% of quota, and now I'm not hitting accelerators anymore. So you're talking about something that is a very, very, very common problem that has a very bright solution on your end as a founder and CEO of TruCommish, which is pay transparency. So I want to dig into like the concept behind pay transparency, how you and your company look at it, how you approach pay transparency, and how it's good for everyone in the company, not just the individual rep or the SDR manager or director of sales who's on a variable comp as well, but it's also good for the company and the leaders at the company and for employee morale and how it boosts things. So drop the knowledge. Let's go. The show is yours.
Awesome. Chet, thank you so much for having me on. Great to meet you here today. Pay transparency. There's been some confusion about what that is. A lot of commission software companies out there are claiming to provide pay transparency, and it couldn't be further from the truth. What I call pay transparency is the ability to track your deal from inception all the way through implementation, invoicing, and commission payout. When you're a rep and you spend what could be literally up to 2 years to penetrate a large enterprise account and close that deal, you expect to earn a certain amount of money when you close that deal. Shockingly to me, no employer provides any reporting from what you expected to be paid. They only provide reporting on what's invoiced to the customer. So if there are changes to that deal, or the commission rate changed, or the dollar amount, or part of it was downsized, or what have you, you have no visibility into that. There's no reporting to that. Or even if a deal gets booked and somehow maybe the accounting department never invoices the customer or gets credited to a different rep or a house account. Again, you have no visibility into that because the company is not providing you bookings information or data. It's only a one-sided view. So that's what I call pay transparency, not to rely on blind faith and trust that the number that's invoiced to the customer is the correct one, but go all the way back from what the customer initially agreed to and make sure that you're being paid off of that. And if you're not, make sure that you have a reconciliation and explanation of any variances on why you're not. That's what I call true pay transparency. And I don't know any organizations today that do that.
Yeah, it's speaking as someone who makes variable commission, and I was saying this before the podcast. I said I was telling my wife, no matter where I work, at some point somebody's going to fuck up my paycheck. It's amazing that whether your department is a department of 1 in finance or a department of 45, it's incredible that I've seen every distance, 1, 20, 25, all the way up to I think 70 I've witnessed before, where it's like, how do you just blatantly forget to pay someone their quarterly comp for their commissions? Like, how does that happen? Like, it's not like I'm new. It's not like, this is the first rodeo. So let's dig into some of this commission stuff, because I've heard some horror stories, specifically also on the rep side as well. It seems like people don't really understand the legal power that they do have at their disposal, and companies do get away with it quite a bit. I've heard stories of reps walking away from $3, $4, sometimes $5,000 in owed commissions because of, oh, well, you weren't here when these deals were finalized to the point of their graduation of onboarding, but you did get the contract signed and you put in your 2 weeks. Like, there's so much stuff, so much weird stuff that happens out there. What are some of the ways that you consult people to essentially help them make sure that they get paid? Or what are some of the things that you recommend or advise they do as they're going through and working with TruCommish to make sure that they're fairly paid out?
I mean, there's so many things to talk about with what you just mentioned there. I mean, the first thing I want to mention is that employers have a legal obligation to pay you fully and accurately. If they don't, they've exposed themselves to employment litigation and triple damages. Sadly, there's not a law that requires them to provide reporting and reconciliation of variances. So without that other side of the law, employers can make it really difficult for you to actually have access to the data and actually check these complicated comp plans to verify that you actually are being paid right or not. So that's sort of a very interesting point there, how it's so one-sided. Errors happen all the time. One thing that you mentioned earlier about sort of everyone wins with pay transparency, why it should be important for the employer and the manager to do so. I'll give you an example, and I hear this all the time. Every month when commissions come out, there's a line out the manager's door of reps complaining about pay errors, complex comp plans, lack of responsiveness from the accounting department. It literally destroys morale, motivation, productivity, key employee retention, culture, and most importantly, trust. All this negative time complaining to the manager, complaining to themselves around the water cooler, or even spending this time trying to check it. Let's use that time to sell more and earn more for the company and themselves, or free up their time to spend a more balanced life, to have more time with their friends and family and hobbies. So if we can eliminate all this negativity and have an independent third-party verification service like TruCommish come in and let the reps know that they are in fact being paid fully and accurately on every deal, and any deal that appears that they're not, the company will work with TruCommish and the rep to research those deals and get you paid what you're owed. Now we've just eliminated all the negativity around commissions and comp plans and the unknown. There's also sort of a mental burden that reps carry, knowing that they sacrifice so much for their company on a regular basis, but they have no way of validating if they're being paid right or not. When you talk about things like trust and money, these are key human emotions. And when people put themselves out for this and then have to question it and worry about if they're being screwed, really it's a mental anguish that they can carry and bring home to their families and their lives, and negatively impacts a lot of things.
And I guess there's no good answer to the question I'm about to ask you. So this is more of an opinion that I'm looking from you. How do companies mess this up so much? Is I'd be very terrified to believe that they're doing it on purpose, or humans make errors. Are we just that inaccurate with all the software and all the capabilities at our hands and all the documentation? It happens constantly. I mean, I'll give you an example. I know a rep who was leaving a company about 4 months ago, and he put in his 2 weeks, and he's like, I just guarantee you my commission's going to be lower than what I've calculated it to be. And when you know it, the gross payout was like $1,200 for the quarter, less than what he was expected to be owed. They dug through some stuff and they were like, oh yeah, I guess this deal does bring you to this percentage, and you would have gotten paid out this on it and that. And it's like, so is it just coincidence that you missed that when you put in your 2 weeks and you're being salty about that? Or are you people really trying to get away with this? Like, what do you see most times? Is it just inaccuracy on the company side, or do they sometimes
I see all of it.
Things under the rug?
I absolutely see all of it. I mean, ultimately, the CRO and the CFO are tasked with reducing the overall cost of sales each year, right? And you want to do it in such a way that you're not going to have a revolt out the door by the sales team leaving. So, so they're making comp plans more and more complex, more difficult to track, creating more and more exclusions to avoid having to pay the reps on certain aspects of the deal. So, I mean, I've seen comp plans that are 35 pages long that don't even have commission rates in them, that you have to go to an Excel calculator to figure out on a per deal basis how much you'll make on that deal. I've also seen 28-page addendums coming with those 35-page comp plans that lay out every possible scenario where the company can avoid paying the rep. So let's make it simple. Come out with a 2 or 3 page comp plan, make it easy to understand and explain to somebody else. Have commission rates in it. If you want to drive certain behaviors to incent folks to sell certain products more so than the other, go ahead and do that. But it doesn't need to be so complex. You don't need a PhD in financial modeling and comp plans and commissions to figure it out. We're overcomplicating things for no good reason to make it more complex. I think part of the problem here is that if you go back 10 or 15 years, these companies had to build all this out themselves. And now there's these commission software companies that have kind of come out. And now companies feel more emboldened than ever to create these crazy comp plans because they're paying commission software companies 6 figures to build out the back end. And now the responsibility to do it right is on the commission software companies. And guess what? They're failing in a lot of ways. There are massive errors that we're finding that are going in both directions for and against the company to the tune of up to 5 figures. So another thing I want to add, one more thing, Chet, that you had mentioned before. You said some people are walking away from $1,000 or more. I had a call last week with a rep who walked away from $100,000 in commissions that he was owed because he worked in such a toxic environment that it was ruining his mental and physical health. And he needed to have a clean break and walk away. And by going to litigation, could have dragged this thing out for a couple of years, and he couldn't handle it. I may have taken a different tack, I may have a different outer shell or what have you, but if I'm wronged, I want to fight for it. But this is exactly what happens. This is the problem, Chet, that this goes on all the time. Really bad behavior, screwing reps on a one-to-one basis, and they don't do anything about it. Nobody knows about it. The system is set up in such a way that it's against the rep. There's a financial cost, there's time, there's the legal part of it, and the mental aspect of it. And most people don't want to be bothered with it. They're willing to walk away from $100,000 that they're owed to go make it over again. And it's wrong. The system is broken.
Yeah. That's scary stuff. That's a pretty staggering number. I haven't heard of one yet that large, but I have seen some pretty close where you look at a monetary amount and you're like, that could really make an impact on someone's life. I want to talk about what people can do. And I want to start at the manager level. So if I'm an SDR manager, director of sales, even if I'm a VP of sales or a CRO listening, and I'm in a conversation with my CFO or my higher up on the revenue leadership chain, and we're talking about comp plans, and my team's comp plan was shown to me, and I just look at it and I go, oh my God, this is going to be a headache. How would you recommend or advise a sales leader to kind of combat that plan or open a dialogue with their higher ups to make the plan a little bit more streamlined and not as nitpicky and complex as possible? I understand some companies, you're pushing products, you have to have certain values and things of that nature. But sometimes when you look at a plan and if you've worked there long enough, you kind of go, it feels like something's up here. What kind of advice would you give a leader? I hear this all the time.
Yeah, I talk to leaders all the time and telling me stories about how the reps have come to them and brought up issues or concerns about the comp plan or pay errors. And then they're going and fighting on behalf of their reps to the executive team. And they're finding a ceiling there. They can't believe it, that these folks are actually going to stand pat and screw their reps out of money. And now the sales leader, frankly, doesn't want to work in an organization like that anymore. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable. The sales manager is really in a tough spot because it's the CRO and the CFO that a lot of times that are driving the comp plans, yet it's the sales manager that has to deliver the message and manage those reps and manage to that number that is likely unachievable. Mm-hmm. So it's really a tough situation. There needs to be some sort of meeting in the middle, right? Where you're going to put together plans that are realistic. Like, how many times that I've seen it, like someone had like a $6 million quota. They did 2 million. And instead of making the quota 3 million next year or 6 million next year, it's 12 million. They have no chance of meeting it. And then they put these cliffs in there with the commission rates, meaning that you have to earn 75% of your OTE or else we'll pay you only 25% of the commissions until you get to that point. I'm getting DMs and calls left and right now because of the time of year about these totally one-sided, unfair comp plans that are being jammed down sales folks' throats. And these aren't underperformers. These are people that have been in companies for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, earning $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 a year that are looking at their comp being cut in half this year with the changes of the economy and doing it through manipulation with the comp plan plan that doesn't really jump out at you until you kind of dive into it and run the numbers and the scenarios.
It baffles me that the comp plans can just change like that. And their simple argument is that, well, when you started, you signed an agreement that says this is at will, and the business agreements for variable commission can change in line with the business needs. I mean, I don't want to ask you legal questions necessarily because I don't know to what level you can give advice, but it's like, is there any way around that? Are those really binding? Is that just something where, I mean, it seems I'm asking because I know recently you're talking about end of year. Walking into Q4, I had heard from 2 reps at a certain company that whatever they missed on in Q3 actually rolled over to their quota for Q4. So if I had, $400,000 in gross profit that I had to hit in Q3 and I hit 300, now next quarter I have to hit 500. And they updated comp plans, sent it all out, official DocuSign, document with it, all the whole thing came from HR. They even had the HR person join their one-on-ones with their boss to explain this new plan. And they just had to take it and accept it for what it was. But is it really that just the fact that upon employment, we're signing those agreements that is legally binding, and on a moment's notice within 30 days, the comp plan can change like that?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of different things. I mean, is it morally and ethically correct? No.
Mm-hmm.
Does it fly in the state of California? Probably not. I know in California that it's absolutely illegal to retroactively make changes to comp plans. I've had conversations in the last 2 weeks with 6 different reps that has happened, and they have been let go, and they actually have a claim to go back to their employer, for that, because it is illegal to make retroactive changes to comp plans. Can you make a change mid-year? What I would love to see or hear is if someone litigates one of those little clauses that everyone puts at the back of a comp plan that says, oh, by the way, although we laid out everything that this plan is going to be in the previous 27 pages, there's a little 2 lines at the bottom in small print that says that any time the company can change the plan for any reason that they want or that they decide. Mm-hmm. So what's the point of having a document or a contract or a signature on it if it can just randomly be changed and have the rug pulled out from under you? So I'm not aware of that particular clause being litigated. It likely has in various states, and I'm sure that it probably has been to the benefit of the employee, but I don't know enough about that right now. So what else can I tell you?
Yeah, well, I'd love to talk about the rep side of things now. We talked about, what if I'm a leader and I feel that the comp plan is not working out in favor of my employee morale and not in their best interest. What if I'm a rep and obviously, if I feel I've been slighted on a deal or my commission isn't correct and I go through this painstaking process of finding out what that was, obviously there are solutions like TruCommish that can help me with that. But in a world where I don't have access to that resource, what's the way that you would advise someone to approach that conversation with their leader so that they're catching them at the right time, they're getting the right outcome that they're looking for, and they're on a path to remedy that problem?
So first I'll tell you the steps that they can take, but I do want to say that actually TruCommish is available for everyone. It's a free service right now for all individual reps who can come here, load up their information, and identify pay errors. And if you have any trouble doing that, I will be happy to jump on a call and help you do it. And we'll do that for free for you.
That's awesome.
So the way that we go about finding errors is that we look at what you expect to be paid on a deal. We compare it to what you actually were paid. We highlight those differences. We provide the reps with a data warehouse and reporting to be able to use that as a platform to do a first pass to determine whether those differences or variances are truly errors or if they just reflect a downsizing of the deal and therefore a lower dollar amount. What I do want to say, though, and how do you go about back to the employer? So once we identify those deals, we put them in 3 buckets, variances. Ones that we've checked and done a first pass that appear that they are errors. Every time we've done that, we've submit them to the company, and the rep has gone home that day with a manual check. There's others that are too complicated to really understand if they're errors or not. And rather than the rep having to spin their wheels checking that out, send a list of those types of deals back to your accounting department and ask for a reconciliation of what you expected to be paid versus what you actually were paid and why that's different. And then sometimes there's actually a good reason for deals to be downsized or reps to be paid less because the deal changed and you were actually paid what reflected that lower amount. So what I do want to give some advice, though, to reps, and especially now that I'm seeing, because a lot of people are coming to me right now and they're asking for help and they've been let go, but they don't have their data and there's nothing that they can do about it. So I know that this sounds kind of negative and I don't mean to be, but set yourself up for success. Don't let yourself be taken advantage of. Make believe that tomorrow you're going to be walked out the door and shut out of your systems and that you've been mistreated or underpaid. So grab your comp plan, grab your employment agreement, keep copies of that. Every single month, download all of your data to your own personal information, your bookings reports out of your CRM, your commission information at the deal and line item level. So that way, if you are walked out of the door and you are mistreated, you actually have something that you can go back to your employer with to negotiate a good severance or terms because you have the data to back it up to make your claim, or to act, if they've done really poor behavior, then you can actually now start to have the information to go do something about it. Another thing that I'd like to add, and again, maybe you might call it paranoid, but in this day and age, it's really necessary. Document everything. Mm-hmm. When your boss or someone or a customer tells you what a great rep you are, what a great job you've done, or you went above and beyond the call of duty, document all of that. When you have conversations about pay or issues or problems, document all that and then send an email back to the person you were speaking with to play back the conversation to confirm that this was what was said. You've now created a paper trail of both positive and negative things that you can use as part of your story to both negotiate a better severance or potentially for a lawsuit down the road.
Yeah. And no, I don't, you said something interesting. I don't take it as negative. I think this is a necessary evil we have to look out for because, you know, it is, I think you said something actually before the call. I was wondering if the soundbite would come back, but it's, we always get told we're like a family until we're not, you know, and that's true. I always tell people that I career coach anyway. You don't, when somebody says we're like a family, run, because families are dysfunctional and I'm not looking to work with a family. I'm looking to work at a company, right? I don't want to be in business with my family. My family is dysfunctional. Most families are. So run when you hear that. But this is
Yeah, I put a lot of posts out in the last, 3 to 4 weeks talking about a lot of relevant issues that I think a lot of people get a lot of value from. One was red flags to watch out for when joining a company. And the very first of that list of about 20 or 25 was, if your company tells you that you're like a family, then run. Because people use that type of a thing to get you to do things that you might not do otherwise, to make sacrifices for the family against your own family. And then when stuff gets tough, they won't hesitate for a second to cut you out and leave you be, and you're no longer considered a family. Seen it happen firsthand.
Mm-hmm. You hit on something really important in this episode, Dan, that I want to reiterate for everyone. With all the conversation that we've had, is the benefit of pay transparency, not just for reps and their morale and their ability to be loyal to a company and stick around and create a healthy culture, but also just even at the simplest level for the sales managers and their time and their morale as well. If I'm a sales manager, I'd rather spend my day coaching reps and upskilling them than dealing with negativity and complaining. Right.
Absolutely.
I'm a sales manager. I'm not the HR team. So I'm not looking for the complaints. I'm looking to coach, train, and upskill. And so
I mean, Chad, it goes beyond that, honestly. I mean, what we're talking about here is people's lives. We're not talking about debits and credits and sales and POs. We're talking about people get up out of bed every day and leave their family and make sacrifices for the benefit of the company. And, why is it that some roles know what they're going to get paid and work that day for that dollar, and other roles like sales that people think that they can mess with their money, that they can hide it, that it's a game to find the commission. It's a shell game. I mean, it's just wrong. I mean, there should be true transparency. People shouldn't have to spend their time worrying about it or trying to figure it out. All the calculations should be right at the forefront so that you never really have to check. You're just reviewing something. But for some reason, companies hide the information. I mean, and then leave the rep wondering if it's right or not. And this is negativity that they carry home with them. And then it impacts their lives and their finances. I mean, we're finding $20,000 in pay errors for reps, which could be the difference between putting a down payment on a home or paying for someone else's mortgage. It could be the difference of sending a kid to college or having a family vacation that your adult children will remember for the rest of their lives beyond the time that you're even on this earth. This is money that you've earned. What gives companies the right to mess with it?
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. As someone who's experienced similar situations before, and I've had to go at bat, and I'm like, oh, here we go, me versus the C-suite, right? Here we go, me versus I do not have near the education that my CRO or my CFO, not in my current company. This is back in the day, but yeah, I do not have the education of these two people that I have to go against and talk in legalese and get everything documented. But I love how you said documentation too, like document the hell out of everything because, they are. That's why you get everything in DocuSign through email with read receipts.
Right. If you show documentation, you show a story, they're much more likely to negotiate with you, give you a good package, and avoid potential litigation because they see that you're armed with the information that will hurt them in court potentially. They want to avoid it. Because another thing, employers are exposed to triple damages if they have screwed reps out of their pay, and it's proven to do so, whether intentional or not. They have an obligation, and saying that was a mistake or it was someone else's fault doesn't fly.
What are triple damages? I'm not familiar.
So there's a legal obligation of the employer to pay the employees fully and accurately. Anytime they don't, and it's been shown to the company that there has been this error, and the company acknowledges that error, if they're not paid immediately, the company is exposed to triple damages. So if you go to court and the company is found guilty of withholding pay, the court will award you triple damages against the company.
Oh, okay. So like 3 times the amount. Wow.
Correct.
Yep. A lot cheaper just to get it done right the first time, or use TruCommish, right? I think that's kind of the theme here. A lot cheaper. A lot cheaper.
Yep. If you use, manual systems today, or even commission software today, we can act as an overlay on top of that as the third-party verification service to ensure that everything on the back end is happening correctly, that you don't have any liability that you're creating, and you have a loyal workforce who appreciates the transparency and the accuracy of pay that your company provides.
I love it. You're like Indiana Jones for lost deals. You're doing archaeological expeditions in their compensation. You're the Indiana Jones of commission. I love it, Dan. Appreciate
I love that.
appreciate you hopping on, spending some time with us today. Dan, if people want to connect with you and learn more about TruCommish, what's the best way for them to do that?
So our website is just www.trucommish.com. There's no E in true, so TruCommish. You can find me on LinkedIn. I respond to every DM, every comment on my posts. Love to engage with folks out there. You can so just search for Dan Goodman and then put in TruCommish, and you'll find me popping up there. You can also check out our free app. It's app.trucommish.com, app.trucommish.com. Go in there. There's videos that show you how to use it, how to upload your data, how to onboard comp plans. I'm also happy to provide a full demo for anybody. We have a recorded 25-minute demo that shows you the full functionality of the app. So reach out. I'm here to help. It's a long-standing problem that's lasted forever, and it's my mission in life right now to be the advocate for the individual sales rep, to help them in every setting, and to ensure that they're being paid fully and accurately on every deal that they've earned.
I love it. And if you're not sold on that, then I would question whether or not you understand the passion in Dan's voice, because the whole time I can tell that this is a mission-driven business for him, and he's speaking from the heart. Because I get people on here a lot of times that'll talk about what they're doing and their business and this, and I don't get near the passion that Dan has in his voice. So I appreciate you looking out for us, for all those making those variable commissions and bonuses. Dan, we love you. We appreciate you. We'll have links in the show notes below for Dan's LinkedIn, as well as the TruCommish website and application that you can download, and as well as resources to the Sales RX community and how you can engage with us further. Thanks for tuning in this week. We'll catch everybody on the next one. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Pleasure.